I'm Johnny Smith.
I'm Richard Porter.
And this is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things. New car time. I know I told you about the Renault 5 that I've got on quite long-term test, which is exciting for me.
Yeah.
I've disgraced myself. I self-poo-lassoed into it the other day, and I'm really ashamed to admit that. I did a bad smell walking over to it and then brought it into the car with me, and the car was but 36 hours old. And I actually apologised to the car as I pressed the start button and went, I'm really sorry about that. There was no one else in the car, luckily. But because the car was so fresh... Yeah, it was just... Because the car's so new, I just felt like, I've really let myself down here. You know, I've brought one in with me.
I know. I mean, I think the first time I realised this, I'd released something into a sofa that we'd not long had. I was just like, well, it'll never be the same again now, is it? I mean,
soiled.
It's going to be, just guffed into multiple times. But the first time is terrible. It is bad. It is bad, and I felt bad. But I thought it's something I just would share with the audience. Yes, well, it's with the high editorial standards for which this podcast known. It's right that you started by talking about accidentally guffing in a brand new car. But how is the 5 so far? The
5 so far is just fantastic. It actually exceeds expectation. It's one of those cars which obviously I've driven it on the launch in France, but when you've got it on home soil and you're doing the journeys you do regularly and you integrate it into your life, sometimes these things are a bit anticlimactic. And I find that this car is not that. And I just honestly have lost count of the number of people that want to talk to me about it whose opening gambit is, I actually don't like electric cars. It's ridiculous. It's daily for me at the moment. I don't even like electric cars, but this thing, look at it. Wow, I'd really quite fancy one of these. They've cracked it. Renault's cracked it.
Are they aware it's electric before they come over to talk to you?
Yes. Yeah, they are. They are. I've had numerous different people, and I've also had people who I think it seems to have tapped into the classlessness, this Renault 5 as well, which is a very difficult market to tap into in the way that the older Golfs did, where people who have got a lot of cars and are quite a wealthy individual are really drawn to the Renault 5. So it's irrespective of its price tag. That's really cool. I'm just excited on behalf of Renault, really, because they've bloody done it. I think they've cracked the nut. You know what I mean, mate? They've cracked it.
That's interesting you say that, because there is this sort of level of thing that attracts people who could afford something much more expensive.
Yes.
But they like what they get from this thing. And even like, I don't know, a can of Coke fulfills that. Bill Gates might buy and drink a can of Coke even though he could afford to bathe in Cristal.
Well, he could buy Coca-Cola, actually.
Yes, he probably could. But more sort of, I'd say, like an Apple Watch might be the same example. You know, someone who could afford a Rolex Sea Dweller might actually just have an Apple Watch or an Ultra because it does what they want.
Yes.
Someone who could afford a Continental GT or something like that, but they probably have one as well. But they'd have the 5 just because it's got that great design.
Yeah.
And actually, I suppose, as a town car, great utility if you are someone who's got a nice big driveway and you can charge it up at home and use it for nipping into Tyne and stuff like that.
I mean,
It's really interesting that it cuts through that way. I can't think...
No, I think this is the electric car the Honda E got close, but I think the Honda E quickly revealed its shortcomings because of that one battery and therefore that one quite low range. The rest of the car, the boot was small, but you almost forgave the boot because the rest of the cabin was sensational. This thing's got it all, and it's just been done right to the right money. Oh, honestly.
The money's attractive as well, isn't it? But I think it's also, hopefully, then this might be a small tipping point for people like you're talking about who go, I don't like EVs, but I like this. It pulls them over there and they can just realise that electric cars are just cars that happen to be propelled in a different way. You get bogged down in how you fuel them up and stuff. But there's an awful lot of people, because I've got mates, particularly people who want a second car, and they go, I'm thinking of a second car. I don't know, what should I get? Should I get like a Fiesta or I don't know, a Clio or what? And you go, what are you doing with it? Oh, we just take the kids into town, and then we just sometimes, we might just go like and see friends on the other side of town, probably about 20 miles, something like that. And you go, why don't you just get an E-Up or a Honda E or something like that? Oh, I hadn't thought about an electric car. You've got a driveway, get a charger put in, it'll save you a frigging fortune.
Yeah.
And you won't be tipping grot into the air as you trundle across town to go and see some friends. And it's like, it's the I haven't ever considered is the bit where you go, why not?
Yeah.
It's a weird one. Because you just go, it's because I think there's an awful lot of very noisy propaganda against them. The sort of low-level background noise.
There is,
and to make clear, and we've said this, and you've said this endlessly, particularly because you were sort of in the vanguard of championing EVs while also going, look, I've got a V8 muscle car at home. You can like both. But it's worth saying, both of us on this show love internal combustion cars and also think that EVs are very suitable for certain jobs.
Yeah. Such
as just being an ordinary everyday car. And you can like both, you can enjoy both. You don't have to pick a side. It's incredibly tedious, this sort of modern malaise of having to choose one or the other in so many different things. You can be more nuanced than that, and I hope that we are. But I always find it fascinating when people go, oh, I hadn't considered an electric car. Yeah, well, maybe you should. Some people, maybe you shouldn't. I have to street park, and I live in the centre of a city, and I frequently have to do a 200-mile round trip in a hurry. All right. Perhaps not for you.
Yes, but in the same way that if you're a regular caravaner, you don't buy a Microlino, do you, to tow a caravan with, because it probably won't work very well.
Yeah,
yes,
no, I know. It's like the people. It is as idiotic as going, well, I live up a rough farm track in Cumbria, and I cannot believe that this Ferrari 360 Challenge car is unsuitable for my needs. And you, well, of course it frigging is. Get a Subaru Forester.
I saw a really good old money Subaru Forester only yesterday, and the guy caught me looking at him, and I think he thought I was being distasteful, but what I wanted to do is just go over to him and go, look, I know you're wealthy, but I know that you're not wanting to show it off. And it was that
palpable,
two-tone.
It?
Was it like silver and blue? It had like silver bumpers, blue body.
Yeah,
they do the old money two-tone. I quite like it.
I've just been driving the new Forester, and the press car that I borrowed was this incredibly subtle and pleasant green.
Oh, that's so Subaru.
It's so Subaru. So old money. I mean, obviously, this car being brand new, not old money. So you'd have to let it weather in for a few years.
Well, they'd buy it and lend it to a niece who's careless.
Yes.
For a couple of months.
That's it. I just thought this just needs to be slightly less shiny, and the interior has to be absolutely, basically reupholstered in Labrador fur, and then we're getting close to the OM dream. But the basics are there. The colour was good, and it's a Subaru Forester, so it's things were looking good.
I love that.
Money wise,
what's it like?
It's all right.
Okay.
It has the laziest hybrid system I've encountered for years. Because if you drive like a modern Toyota hybrid, they run on electric power for a surprising amount of time.
Yeah,
and you'll be on the motorway doing 70 and it'll suddenly it'll shut off the petrol engine.
Yeah.
And you'll just be trucking along, keeping a constant speed, and it'll just be using its electricalness. And then, it's very good at managing how it charges its battery, and it's incredibly clever. And they always do like 50 miles to the gallon, no matter what you do, in my experience. It's barely on electric power at all. It's not plug-in, by the way. It's just one of what people seem to insist on calling self-charging now. But I did quite a lot of miles in it, and it's 30 to 33 miles to the gallon. So and it's not very quick.
Well,
In fact, it really labours, because I had at some points there were 4 of us in it, in fact 5 of us at one point, and it really struggles. I mean, struggles, not struggles like a 106 with 5 people in it, but you have to give it a load of revs, and it doesn't sound very nice when you do. There's no sense it's a boxer. Doesn't have any Subaru burble. It just sounds like a rather
that's a shame
4-cylinder. Yeah,
it's not really
horrible,
but
it's
not a characterful drivetrain by the sounds of it.
No. And the hybrid stuff, it just feels like you're just dragging it around for fun, because it's not making any meaningful contribution to either the performance or the economy. But anyway,
well,
it's one of the things I liked about it, which is a strange thing to say, is it's got really big windows.
Oh yes, large glass heis.
Heis, exactly, the heis.
Is that a prerequisite for being an OM car, as you now call them? Which makes me think about Mercedes-Benz diesel engines.
Oh yeah,
is it the OM 606?
Yes. Well, I suppose if you live in a sprawling Georgian stately home, then you're used to having very big windows, aren't you? So you'd want them in your car as well. It's probably why some toffs like a Range Rover, they've got big windows.
Yeah. Did I dream that we had this conversation, or did we actually have a conversation about why I don't understand that Toyota/Lexus don't build an actual Range Rover? Did we have this conversation on this podcast? I feel like
it doesn't ring any bells.
Okay, so I must have dreamt that I just had sent an open letter to Toyota and Lexus and went, guys, look, here's the situation. Everybody that has a Range Rover constantly says that, yes, I know they go wrong, and I know that I can't insure it, and yeah, all the other things, and they keep getting stolen. But nothing's out there that's like a Range Rover. And I just keep sitting here going, well, if that's to be believed, right, you want to tow 3.5 tons, you want the opulence of the interior, the quietness, and you want the luxury and the style. I guess all Range Rovers have been quite simply styled, haven't they? Not many of them have been fussily styled.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Toyota go, right, let's build a Lexus Range Rover? It has to look like a Range Rover, be much better quality. It'll never go wrong because it's a Lexus. It can pull 3.5, so it ticks all the boxes that anyone has ever gone on and on and on and on and on about Range Rovers, but it's basically a Lexus. Why haven't they done this?
Well, they sort of have, haven't they? I mean, the Land Cruiser.
Yeah, but it looks like a train. That's the problem with the Land Cruiser. Range Rover people think it looks a bit ghastly.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, what you're really saying is that what Toyota should do is go to Land Rover and go, can we buy the rights to the Range Rover design?
The L322, the one that you like.
Well, that would be great, wouldn't it? Because that's the one that people sort of regard as still the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But we'll just make it properly.
Yeah.
We're just going to use the design, but we'll have to redo all the body engineering so that it's proper to our standards, not yours, no offence. And
we'll galvanise it while we're there.
We'll put our... But the thing about Range Rovers is there is something indefinable about them. And partly is the driving position, which is never quite the same in other cars. It's and there's the big glass and all that. But there's just something about the way they go down the road.
Well, and this is the thing. You're one of the people that has said these descriptions to me for years and years and years, and that's why I think to myself, if I was heading up Lexus, I would just go, right, buy 3 generations of Range Rover, bring them in, laser scan them, dismantle them, and just basically go, we already build a Land Cruiser, which is a good car, but people still don't want them over a Range Rover. So let's just tap into exactly where we're going wrong here. The interior, we're going to steal a couple of designers from Range Rover to do the interiors, so that they...
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what they really need to do.
They need to steal an interior designer.
Interior designers... a couple of ergonomics people who just go, so why is the Range Rover, why is it, what's it sort of, it's that relative position where you sit relative to the height of the door, height of the roof, dashboard. Yeah. That just gives you that intangible Range Rover-ness.
Yeah.
in some way or other.
It'll be a ratio
just poach good people. Yeah,
it'll be a ratio of where the arse is in relation to the bottom of the glazing, in relation to the top of the dash.
Sort of is that. Historically, some of that has come from the fact that I think, notwithstanding that side impact rules make this harder, Land Rover products used to make you sit or put you closer to the door, because the idea is that then it was easier to stick your head out the window to have a look at when you're off-roading at where the hazards are and where the wheels are. And so that just gave you that slight sort of, that relative position that became synonymous with those cars. And it's not something you sort of almost subconsciously register it, but anyway, I don't know. Just basically Lexus needs to poach a load of Land Rover people.
Or let's put it another way. Maybe the other way round. Land Rover needs to steal Lexus people and listen to them, and just go, guys, let us do the drivetrain and the wiring.
I've asked some Jag Land Rover people, like engineers, said to them, why is it that your cars have a bad reputation for reliability that probably is founded in experience of customers? And why is it that Toyota has an excellent reputation for reliability? Again, probably based on millions and millions of people around the world buying their products and finding that they last forever, if mechanically, because they're just sort of well put together. And there's lots of reasons that I'm sort of aware of, like Toyota kind of does it right, first time, and then they don't skimp on the spec with their suppliers, and they get a part working properly, and then they use it ad infinitum across loads and loads of cars, and that's when it bites them on the arse. Do you remember a few years ago they had to recall loads of cars because the electric window switches could overheat and potentially catch fire? And of course it bit them on the arse because they use the same switches over millions and millions of cars and dozens of different models, because it's really cost effective, and because you're not introducing a failure point by re-engineering the electric window switch for every new model. And I know lots of people do that, but I think Toyota do it to the extreme. Funnily enough, since I'm a Honda Beat person now, I was looking into this, and a lot of Beat owners put Honda Jazz brakes on them.
Oh, okay. Interesting upgrade.
Yeah, they're slightly stronger, but also, tellingly, they're pretty much a straight swap, because Honda, again, has this sort of massive commonality across cars in all sorts of things, beyond big components, but also just fixtures and things like that. So, I think Toyota's good at that. But I still haven't got a definitive answer for why Toyota can make generally reliable cars and Land Rover seemingly can't.
I'd like to know.
It's like it's a cultural thing, but why? What is the root cause of this? It baffles me.
Well, if anybody knows, please tell us. And maybe you'd like to share your thoughts on what my idea is, whether or not Lexus should do an actual Range Rover.
Talking of just poaching the best people, I know Tesla's a bit of a problematic subject at the moment for obvious reasons, but I discovered the other day by accident, for ages, the sort of real Tesla evangelists would go, the safest cars on the road. And you go, based on what? What are you talking about? This is just propaganda, it's drivel. And then you look at their crash test results in Euro NCAP, or the US equivalent, and actually they do very well in independent crash testing. You're like, well, how's that then? Why? I don't, because they're quite a new car company.
Yeah.
And I discovered a couple of weeks ago, he's just left, in fact, their head of safety, ex-Volvo and Saab.
Of course.
And you go, okay, that's how they did it then. Just go, right, who makes the safest cars in the world? Well, it's the Swedes. Right, find me some Swedes to do our safety. Well, it's not complicated. It's just having the money to throw at the problem and to find the best people, I guess.
Well, and it bloody works. Kia and Hyundai. That's how their design is so good, and their cars are interesting, well put together, because they've poached a load of Germans early on.
Well, before that, they poached the people behind the Morris Marina. Yeah. But that's fine. They moved on very quickly from that. They also got Mitsubishi people, I think, and that probably was a bit more useful for their reliability.
Well, two things I want to talk about next. One of them is a portable toilet. and suitable for a car. And the second one
Right.
is a fashionable new band that have used a really retro car on their album, which I thought would be perfect
Yes.
for us. So I found, don't ask me why, I found a toilet that's suitable for taking to festivals and also using potentially in the car, called the Highlander, which is just the name of it.
That's a Toyota, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a Toyota. Yeah. It's a portable toilet, which is basically, you know, those trestle tables for 80s keyboards on top of the pops. It looks like one of those with a plastic seat on it and a bin liner.
What?
Yeah, so it looks like it could possibly collapse at any moment, which I wouldn't trust. And it says, the height is, by the way, this is a £27 portable toilet. The Highlander has a sturdy tubular steel frame and a moulded plastic seat that clips on top to hold it together. After use, the frame and seat fold flat for easy transportation and storage. The waste disposal bag is held firmly in position by an inner plastic ring that fits inside the seat. This product has been described by buyers as the flattest fold-away portable toilet on the market. And it gives dimensions of the seat, if you want it, and also the maximum recommended user weight.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so there's that, which I found, I don't know, funny, interesting. But the other one is the band Divorce, who are a new band. And I looked them up out of curiosity after hearing them on the radio. And their album, which is called Drive to Golden Hammer, there's a photo on the cover, which you've probably seen, Rich, and it's a red Austin Montego, or it might be an MG Montego.
Well, it is an Austin Montego. We were sent this by a listener.
Oh, were we?
And I'll never find this now. Oh, yeah, here we go. Ben Ablewhite says, have a look at the special edition version of the thoroughly excellent fashionable young band Divorce's debut album, Drive to Golden Hammer. I'm intrigued and a little bit delighted by their choice of prop, which looks like a rather minty early Austin Montego. I'm intrigued partly because the trim doesn't make sense to me. It has upper spec brightwork around the windows, but not in the bumpers. And vinyl seat backs would suggest it's an L, maybe an HL. Can Richard's apparently encyclopedic knowledge of 80s and 90s Austin Rover toss shed any light?
This is
does this mean the Montego is now cool? I looked at this picture. Sorry, Ben, I forgot to reply to you. I looked at this picture when you sent this through. To me, that I think is a Montego L.
Okay.
Because it's got the window brightwork, but not in the bumpers. It's got vinyl seat backs. It's also got the see-through headrests.
Yep.
Which is a bit of a giveaway because I think the HL had solid upholstered headrests. So yeah, I think it's and it's got wheel trims, not alloys or anything like that. So it's definitely lower spec. But yeah, I think it's a Montego L. I'm going to say a 1.6, but I don't know for sure. I think in terms of is the Montego fashionable?
Yes.
I think this is this classic thing where people who weren't born when that car was current just see it as retro and therefore cool.
Yes, agree.
And that would apply to probably, they could have equally picked a Sierra or a Mark II Cavalier or something. But I suppose the Montego has a certain sort of its time fugliness.
And the badge doesn't exist anymore, so it makes it even more quirky.
Yeah. So it seems a bit more obscure. But yeah, it's...
They're a Nottingham band, aren't they?
Are they? Are they basically from Nottingham?
They're basically from Nottingham. There they are. Yearning debut from Nottingham-based alt-indie country quartet Divorce plays homage to place and home. Yeah.
Alt-indie country? Wow.
Yeah, alt-indie country
but from
quartet.
Nottingham?
From basically Nottingham. Well, not even basically, definitely from Nottingham.
Definitely from Nottingham.
Yes. They were formed in 2021. Yeah. So we'll put a picture on our socials, but it's the imagery for the listeners is one of the members of the band is holding a very droopy hosepipe and drizzling water onto the bonnet of the car whilst wearing what looks like a red Matador coat and some huge Northern Soul trousers. And then there's a guy hanging out of the driver's door or leaning against the driver's door looking up at the camera. The camera is in an elevated position so you can see that it has a pop-up sunroof. there's a girl in the passenger seat leaning out the window on her elbow, and she's looking at the camera, and you can see the wheel trim and all the water that's pissing from underneath the car that the hosepipe guys spewed. And then you've got another bloke wearing a Hawaiian shirt leaning against the near side back door, looking, I think, at the girl who looks like she might be bored. So, and in the background there's some hedges with some red poppies or some red tulips. So there's a lot of red because the Montego is bright, vibrant red. But I like it. It's cool. It's very stylish.
Well, we'll have to.
I know.
I'm going to go and listen to it. I'll be honest, I hadn't listened to their music, which I should have done.
On to some really interesting news just in.
Yes.
Bolivia. Like, news has come over from Argentina. There's this car that's come up, it's going to be on sale. Some place called Pistonheads.com. Don't know much about it, but like loads of cars get sold there. Some of them on auction, some of them like classifieds and that. But mate, there's a black 1999 Honda Prelude 2.2 for sale, manual gearbox. It's got like a foreign name like Mortigi, whatever. But basically, it's 2.2 and it's 200 horsepower. I think they're playing down the horsepower. I think it maybe is 600, but you can't advertise 600 horsepower cars maybe on this website. I don't know. But all you need to know is that Pistonheads.com, who proudly support this here podcast, have the mintiest looking Prelude up for auction that starts. Well, it's live now, isn't it? It started on the 1st of April.
Yeah, it's if you listen to this on the Monday the show comes out, this auction only has 1 day left to run, so move fast.
Move fast.
If you want a minty looking Prelude 2.2.
Oh my gosh, honestly,
and it is proper minty, isn't it, by the looks?
It really is. I've been admiring its 153 photos of the exterior alone. 77,000 miles, 2 Prev owners, not Toyota Previa owners, previous owners. But what really shocked me was this Motegi edition is as close to a Type R as we got in the UK, I think, because it had the same engine as the Accord Type R, H22A VTEC, yeah. But 200 horsepower in 1999 seems massive to me. Without turbos, seems massive.
Yeah.
And
that is a lot.
We were trying to work out how light a Prelude was in that period, and we did a little bit of digging around. I think it's about 1,300 kilos. So that sounds to me like it's going to be frisky. But annoyingly for Prelude Guy, this car is completely unmodified. So if he was to have purchased it, we all know what would happen with it. This particular car is totally unmodified with an incredible history. So the Motegi edition has a very grown-up interior with some leather and wood trim, and the cloth interior is fantastic, and it does look so good. And it has, according to the Pistonheads description, a simply astounding service history. So are you going to sing it or am I?
Yeah, simply astounding.
Service history, never more astounding than this. Every single receipt for fuel.
Maybe that's what that song was about. Tina Turner was actually simply the best example available at the moment.
Oh, yes. I love that. A simply astounding service history, which includes a little jotter from a doddering old man who'd ridden every single journey that he'd ever done.
Yes.
Which for some reason is so
filler.
attractive nowadays. I don't know why. But yeah, this Prelude is quite something. It comes with 4 keys. Often we hear about 2 keys. This has got 4, including the all-important red key, which remains sealed in its packaging. Sales brochures,
What's
original
the
book
red
pack.
Key? Is that like Fiat's of the time? It's the one that gives you can get other keys cut off.
I think it is. It's the master, isn't it? The one that you only use, you put in a safe place, like the home safe, along with family heirloom items. It's had a new clutch at the back end of last year, and also a major service and a battery and brake discs and pads and track rod ends. after a 5-year storage period where it came out and was recommissioned. So this is a time warp, people. Believe. I'm going to say believe because it actually says that in the particulars.
Well, now look, every time we mention these Pistonhead auctions, the idea is that we each choose a car. Now, I was drawn to the Prelude for obvious reasons.
Of course.
But it wasn't a done deal because then I noticed, running at the same time, and weirdly with almost exactly the same mileage on it, 77,000, a Peugeot 306 GTI 6 from the year 2000.
Oh, you beauty. Almost the same age as the Prelude too.
Yeah, so it's the Prelude's a 99. This is a 2000 car. Because this is the weird thing. The 306 GTI 6 is about 100 kilos lighter than the Prelude, but then it only has 167 horsepower instead of 200. Now, I remember these 306s being really quick in their day, which means the Prelude probably feels really quick as well. But this 306 has had $7,000 spent on it in the last year.
Gosh.
It's also had a full respray. It's got, it's blue.
I'm just looking now.
It's a paint. It's had a full suspension refurb with the rear axle being rebuilt and powder coated. It's got new Bilstein shocks on it. Got new front struts with new bump stops, new IBAC springs, new strut top kit.
Somebody's really gone for it. I'm scrolling and looking through all these images.
Yeah, the brakes have been upgraded with drilled and grooved discs.
It's got an interesting number plate as well.
It's also it's been lightly, so it's got, and I love this expression, fast road cams on it.
I met him once. He was on a gap year. I think he was a canoe instructor.
If it's not up your street, it does say in the ad the original camshaft is included in the sale. So you could always stick it back to standard, I suppose, if you wanted to. But this sounds like it's been sort of thoughtfully upgraded. So it probably has got a bit more than the 167 horsepower from the factory. But these are absolutely fabulous cars. One of my favourite hot hatchbacks of all time.
Yeah.
And this one looks like it's been sensibly upgraded and lightly restored almost in the ways that matter.
It's the sign of an obsessive owner when there's photographs of boxes of all the pieces they've taken off that still haven't got rid of, and clear photographs of the underneath of it showing all the new suspension and the refreshed items. That's blooming sensational. It is such a handsome car.
They're great.
They really are.
They're just timelessly pretty, and so it doesn't look horribly dated. It just looks neat and nice. It comes with a spare set of wheels as well if you want them, which is with sort of more tracky bias tyres. But yeah, there's just endless pictures of paperwork and mechanical parts, and it's proper. This really got a want on for it. But so if the auction finishes tomorrow, the 8th of April, so
go and have a look at this,
sadly,
and
because I've just bought a car.
To younger listeners, back then, I'm going to almost say back in the day, having a 6-speed manual gearbox was a thing to boast. Hence the term GTI 6. And it
was worth talking about.
And this car also had a 6-disc multi-changer, 6 CD multi-changer. Oh.
That 6-speed box did introduce a strange quirk with those 306s that I think because the box was slightly longer or wider, depending on how you're looking at it, it encroached on the wheel arch and they had to put stops on the rack. And in one direction, I can't remember whether it was clockwise or anti-clockwise, the steering lock on those is really bad.
Well, only one way?
It's worse one way than the other from memory. And I found this out the hard way, attempting a 3-point turn on a street in Birmingham once, and it became like a 9-point turn. It was like, oh, bloody hell, there's no lock on this thing. The only driving downside of those cars, they've got a lovely ride. They handle beautifully. They're very lively, but in the best possible way. The engine is strong. The gear change is nice. They are terrific. So that's my choice this week for Pistonheads auction. 306 GTI 6 ends tomorrow. Go and have a look. And if you want to incur my enormous jealousy, go and buy it.
Yeah. In summary then, Prelude manual, both like gold dust for Honda people, take into account is essentially unmodified, like no one's bussed around with it, no one's pissed around with it. It's a 4-cylinder legend with 4-wheel steering. And that's one thing that your car hasn't got.
Well, it's got passive four-wheel steering.
Does that mean someone's just undone some bolts a bit? Or does that... that's the French four-wheel steering, isn't it?
Well, it's sort of that. I think, yes, it had that passive bushing that deforms and gives you a little bit of steer on the rear end.
I'd like to know,
as it were.
I'd like to know if anyone listening to this podcast buys either of these cars or the cars we mention in the Pistonheads auction section. Let us know, because we're always just interested, because we live through you.
If you want to debate which of us has chosen best in the Pistonheads auction, by the way, go to pistonheads.com/Smith and Sniff. It takes you to the forum thread where you can decide which of us has chosen more wisely.
Yeah, good choices. GTI 6 versus 2.2 Believe Prelude.
Moving on. Well, first of all, I had a couple of things I have to pick up from recent episodes that I meant to just correct. First of all, I was going on about how I absolutely love the look of the current Ford Transit Connect.
Yes.
I realised I'd got the wrong van. It's the current Transit Courier that I really like.
You turd.
The even smaller one.
Transit Courier. What's that based on then? What's the Transit? I'm just going to look. That's
a good question, because traditionally there was the original Couriers have been Fiesta.
It's a Tornado. It's a Tornado Courier. So it's still the Caddy. It's the VW Caddy, isn't it?
No, that's because that's the Connect.
Oh,
the Courier I cannot figure out. Hang on, I'm looking this up now. It is. Oh no, beg your pardon. It is based on the Caddy.
Yeah, it's the CAD file.
It doesn't look. But it's got, because the what's his flap? The Connect has VW sort of bits on it, exterior bits.
That's right.
This has got 4 door handles.
It does look really good. I'm actually going to be borrowing one quite soon. I think they do I think they do an electric Connect.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
I looked this up. They do. Apparently, it is on a Ford platform.
Forester.
Which probably explains why it's got Forester handles and stuff on it. But yeah, I think it's a properly handsome little thing. But yeah, I was mixing up my little van.
The competition will have closed by the time you listen to this of the 2,000 mile one owner Volkswagen Bora that barn find that I bought and put as a competition. But when I went into the VW dealer and sat down in the waiting room area ready to collect the car after it had new brakes and MOT and a deep service with a cam belt and all that, there was some merchandise, official manufacturer merchandise, which is a real mixed bag, I'm going to say. I glanced into the glass cabinet next to me, and there was some Golf GTI flip-flops, which I couldn't decide whether they were a shit idea or not. And
why would you want such a thing?
I don't know. They looked well made and all, but I just thought, I did take a photo. I'll share it with our patrons. And then this morning, when I knew we were going to record this, I thought, I wonder if I can find some other slightly odd Volkswagen merch that's on sale. Well, I think it's in North America. I don't think it's in the UK, but I might be wrong. You can get a whole clothing collection called the Tiguan.
What? And
when you go into the Tiguan clothing collection, you can get T-shirts, caps, mugs, which say Tiguan on. Yeah. And there's even they call it a sports SUV tent. Sports with a Z. Sports. Yeah. An SUV tent which goes onto the tailgate of the car. And then there's one that's sort of I think it's called a sports small tent, but I think it's basically a toilet tent. It's one which there's no other use for it. It's so small. I will forward it to you, Richard, and let you decide. But it's called the Outdoor Sport Tent, and it's just a sporty toilet tent, and it's got a VW badge on it, and it's all official Tiguan merch.
Some people have to sit in a meeting room, don't they, and discuss this stuff and authorise it. And say, let's go ahead with the Tiguan merch, and then do they go, right? How many Tiguan T-shirts have we sold this month? None. Okay, well, let's bide our time. Softly,
they'll
catchy.
come. Yeah, they'll come.
It costs them money to do this.
Yeah.
So, you'd think, obviously it's not their main business, but then, VW sells a lot of sausages and ketchup and stuff. They can do other things, and it can be a viable thing to do.
This is true.
T-shirts, that can't be a sensible business decision.
Well,
surely.
Well, no, I don't think so. You can buy Volkswagen watches. There's a ladies' Volkswagen watch, and then there's a unisex GTI watch. There's all kinds of strange things, like a cycling top.
This is all in the US?
Not all of it. Some of it's in the UK. Yeah. I got lost. I'll send you the links. I got completely lost in all of the different Volkswagen merch.
I'll just look this up. They call it driver gear.
Yeah, that's right.
See, but I'm looking here now. There's like there's T-shirts with the VW logo on and stuff that you'd go, all right, yeah, I could see that. I mean, I could see you go down to Newquay and go to a campsite there, and half the people would be wearing a VW logo T-shirt happily. They're actually some of them are quite good.
But then you go to the Tiguan cap and the Tiguan T-shirt, which it's supposed to look lifestyle-y. But you go,
yeah, no.
Even the description.
No, I get these. They've got some ones with Beetles on and Type 2s and stuff. And yeah, they're all right, aren't they? But
do you know what? I'm just going to read, before we move on, I'll quickly read what it says, the description for the classic Tiguan T-shirt. Whether you're a proud Tiguan owner or just a fan of stylish minimalist designs, this T-shirt is perfect for adding a touch of automotive flair to your casual wardrobe. Pair it with jeans or shorts for an effortlessly cool, laid-back look. The Tiguan Volkswagen Classic Graphic.
They have to give a serving suggestion.
It's really, they're really good. Yeah, honestly, it's baffling.
There's a T-shirt here that it just says Jetta on the front, but then it's got a sort of, not quite a line drawing, but barely anymore, of what I presume is supposed to be an old Jetta, but doesn't really look anything like it. It looks more like a Mark 1 Escort.
Oh, gosh.
There's a part of me that goes, I'd love to walk around a UK car show with a Jetta T-shirt on, because it's a bit obscure, isn't it? Like, anyone can wear a golf shirt, but you've got to be a bit rare groove / weird to go, Jetta. Yeah. Love a separate boot.
Now, you might remember, and sometimes I forget myself, that I've got a 1964 Chevrolet Impala.
Yes.
That this year I will have owned for 20 years, and I've still never driven it or started it. But, no, gloss over that part. I do occasionally get served 1964 Chevrolet Impala Google material. And thanks to Instagram, they served me up some 80s Australia touring car, very grainy images and video, very exciting videos actually. And there was a bloke who I've only just heard of as of yesterday, called Peter Hopwood, who drove a 1964 four-door right-hand drive Impala. And bear in mind, that's what they call a full-size car. That really is full-size.
Yeah.
In this Group NB in today's terminology, but Appendix J period touring car racing, he drove it up against Mini Coopers and Lotus Cortinas in the early 80s in Australia and saw a lot of them off. And I watched two 12-minute very grainy races, and it was amazing. This guy, I don't know if he's still alive, this guy was an absolute hero. And you've got to watch him helmsmaning this flipping land yacht around. Quite an inappropriate circuit car, I'm going to say. But it was really, really exciting. And I thought to myself that we have quite a lot of Australian listeners on this podcast. And even if you just want to watch some inappropriate cars being helmsmaned around, it's a very cool thing. Peter Hopwood, I doff my cap to you.
Oh, on that note, thank you to everyone in Australia who wrote to us to say, yes, please, we'd love you to do a live show down here. There were lots of messages. We really appreciate it. It's an ongoing situation. It won't be like next week, but we are still talking to people down there about how we might put on a live show. So watch this space, probably later in the year.
It will be later in the year, yes. But if we can, we will.
Yes. On a more immediate note, just a quick reminder that we're doing a live show on Wednesday the 7th of May at the Morgan Factory in Malvern. tickets are probably still on sale. They might have sold out by now. I don't know. We're speaking from the past. You're listening in the future. That's all smashing. But yeah, thank you for everyone in Australia who wrote in to say, oh, okay, I might be able to come along if you do a live show down here.
I want to talk about vapey tailpipes. Do you know those the vape? I don't know what you call them. Vape pipes that have the gigantic battery on and the little mouthpiece that you draw on.
Yes.
And some of them
look a bit like a crack pipe.
Yeah, some of them are quite big and chunky, aren't they? And I think a couple of manufacturers of exhausts are missing a trick here for some great promo. So take a Krapovich, for example. Well-known manufacturers of manifolds and tailpipes and back boxes. Why don't they do a Krapovich vapey tailpipe? It could be amazing. It could be, I don't know, surgical titanium grade. Or it could be DTM upswept. I don't know. I think of all the different exhaust shapes that exist in the car world. You could translate that to some vapey accessorising. I think it could be quite cool. What do you think, Richard?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the vapes are all the rage after all.
Vapes are all the rage, mate. Yeah, that's right.
Sound like someone's grandma there. Well, they're very trendy, aren't they? All the rage now.
All the rage, mate. I was out the other night, I was off my box, and this guy just shoved this big thing in my face. I thought it was like a piece of drain pipe. And then I just had a heave on it, mate. And then I just disappeared in this cloud that smelt of butterscotch and eggs. I don't know what it was about.
Very dry butterscotch. I have a question for you. Well, I'll give you a bit of context first. I got out of the car the other day at motorway services, and I was sort of parked at the edge of the car park right by there's a motorway going past down an embankment below. And I could hear a horn coming. I could hear someone sounding their horn, but then it didn't stop. So you got a fantastic Doppler effect because it was like,
oh, nice.
But it kept going, and I was like, that's not someone hooting at somebody else. That's a car with the horn jammed on.
Oh, right, okay.
I could only think it must be, because why else? It's like you shouldn't be hooting for that long. Like, what are they trying to do? It was weird. It went on for ages. It was quite extraordinary. And I just thought, that's quite embarrassing, driving a car with the horn jammed on. Because it looks attention seeking, but actually it's giving you attention that you don't want. And I was thinking, I don't know why this first thing that came to mind, I was feeling like, ooh, I'd hate to have to drive around in a car with the horn jammed on. But I wondered, and this is specifically to you, given your certain preferences about driving, would you rather have to do a long journey in a car with the horn jammed on or with the air conditioning jammed on maximum cold?
Oh, horn.
Really?
Definitely the horn. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it'd be difficult on both accounts. I suppose I could open the windows with the aircon on full bore to try and balance out the dryness.
Yeah. But then that would feel wasteful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because I'd be robbing the engine of power for needless reason, which would anger me. But then again, the horn being permanently on would anger everybody else around me.
Yes.
So I told you about that time.
There's a risk of violence, because if you were sitting in traffic, someone would go, "What are you hooting at me for?" And you go, "I can't. It's jammed on.
Yeah.
It's jammed on. I can't do." I'd go air conditioning jammed on every time, because the horn thing, I just thought, that's really terrible.
It incites rage, I think, in a lot of people, doesn't it?
Do you know what it sounded like though when the car was going past on the motorway? The other thing it reminded me of, apart from that question, was Lovely Day by Bill Withers.
Oh, he just holds the note.
Because he holds it a bit too long. I think it's going to be a lovely...
I have tried to emulate that song so many times.
Oh, it's impossible.
I don't know what the prep is, the vocal prep.
Well, he's got lungs like a blue whale, clearly. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's a very long note to hold.
I bet he never wanted to do it live.
Accurately.
Ever.
I wonder if he did do it.
Yeah, I wonder if he just said, "I'm never doing that live because I had to prep for it, and that's that. It's done. It's in the record."
Or just, I mean, some people, they can do this. It's always like, I always thought there's no way that Morton Harkett can pull off Take On Me accurately in a live situation.
Oh, he can.
And hold, because that's a holding note, and also the range that he has to go through. But no, I've seen footage of it. I don't think he does it so much now because he's getting older, but he certainly used to absolutely belt it and hold the "I'll be gone in a day or two" for bloody ages.
I still don't know the lyrics though, but we've talked about that in a previous podcast.
What, Take On Me?
Yeah, I still don't know what he says straight off the bat. I've always told you, to me it's Don King awaits, but I don't actually know what he says.
Don King awaits. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I was like, he's waiting for Don King for whatever reason, and I still don't know what the reason is all these years later.
I thought it was Talking Away, but now you've made me...
It's Don King. It's got something to do with Don.
I've just looked it up. Do you want me? I'm not going to spoil it. I like it as Don King Awaits. I don't know what.
I genuinely don't know what it's supposed to say.
So just a little backgraph. We were talking about Mustang Sally and whether it's about a horse or a car.
Yes.
Quite a few people wrote in and went, "It's about a car, you idiots." If you make it as far as verse 2, it goes, I bought you a brand new Mustang, a 1965. Now you come around signifying a woman you don't want to let me ride.
That's a car.
Strange. Yeah, so it is. Well, there's an excuse I didn't offer last time, which is I can't really listen to Mustang Sally because I associate it with this buffoon I used to know who insisted on singing it in public situations. And
oh, no.
It just annoys me. So, I can't get to verse 2 because I've already turned it off.
It reminds me of being very young and watching The Commitments, if you remember that film.
Oh, yes.
And the two things I remember from watching The Commitments, bear in mind I haven't watched it since it first came out, I don't think, were that they sing that song, and they're all Irish, and there's everyone smokes indoors. Those are the only things I remember as a kid from watching it. There's so much indoor smoking, it almost made me have a headache just watching it.
Are you surprised that everyone in the Irish film The Commitments is Irish? Was that like... I sort of feel like that doesn't need to be mentioned so much. But yeah, the smoking indoors dates it massively, I suppose. It
does. I'm confused by people that drag race supercars and they heavily modify them to just drag race them. It's something that it's a genre of this car world that I don't understand it. You buy a supercar, which is a really expensive car anyway, that does things fast around corners and is extremely light and agile. And then you kind of like clip its wings somewhat and just turn it into a drag car when you could have built a drag car that does drag racing better.
Oh, I see.
For a fraction of the money, without ruining, I don't know, let's say an R8 or a Lamborghini. I don't get it. I really don't understand it, Rich. Does anybody else?
No, I suppose
because I like drag racing and I don't mind supercars at times. But why would you make it a drag racing supercar? They're not actually the best cars for drag racing, especially because a lot of them are four-wheel drive now.
Oh yeah, they are, aren't they? It's also just because they can do so much more. The handling of a Ferrari 296 or something is superb. I gather
it is,
but yeah. So
I don't get it.
Take it up with the influencer community, or whoever.
Shall I? I'm just asking. It's a question. This is a question.
I've got another question for you before we wrap this up, and it's what the merry frig is going on with Skoda design. Is the mouth
getting bigger?
It's not the mouth, because actually the mouth's getting smaller because they've sort of changed the front for their upcoming and newest electric cars. But I've been seeing a few new Kodiaks around the place. And I always thought Kodiak was quite a handsome car, and it managed to look like a Skoda, but also it was an SUV and sort of, had a certain
tasteful
appeal to it, if you like, that kind of thing. Yeah, tasteful. Because yes, and they did them in nice green colour and things. The new one is just the most sort of generically bland, slightly weak, bleh kind of, and it's just it's hard to know what it is. You just go, is that some new Chinese-made SUV I haven't noticed before? Unless you see it from the front, the grille is still there, and that. But from the side and the back, it's so weirdly generic and unsatisfying. I can't believe they signed it off. It's
I haven't seen
boring. Yeah, you're starting to see them around now. But then also the most recent Superb and the Superb wagon, which you do see around a lot on the motorways, because I guess, although the sales rep is probably not as commonplace as it once was, I reckon a Superb wagon is a reptastic car. So I feel like I'm forever coming up behind them on motorways, and I keep thinking it's a Vauxhall Insignia wagon because it looks very similar from the back, and that's not a good thing. And then it just sort of has this very weak side profile that's not recognisably a Skoda and is not particularly attractive. It's not unattractive, it's just I'm going to have a look at this. Skoda is so good at this stuff. I don't know what's gone wrong. Just sort of quietly tasteful. If you know your cars, you'd be able to just go, well, that's a Skoda, because it's sort of just quietly tasteful.
I do think a lot of new cars are looking worse than their replacements because they're changing design for the sake of changing it without seemingly any direction on why are you doing this? What's the concept here? Why? Because I think it's quite unclear. Like cars that from 10 years ago versus cars now, it isn't clear which one's more modern.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. Well, I'd say that's true of the recent Superb and the Kodiaq. They don't look more modern. They just look worse. It's almost like they sort of updated them for the sake of it. And you just go, I wouldn't have bothered.
No, don't do it.
Anyway,
I would look at it.
My chest, but,
I would look at it, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 8 tabs open of Peter Hopwood driving a Chevrolet Impala around an Australian racetrack. So good. I'll just have to look at it another day.
Yeah, just once you've cleared your diary. All right, well, we should bring this one into land with a modicum of dignity. But before we go, I have 3 things to tell you. The first one is Johnny has a new project on the go where essentially he's attempting to replace me on this podcast with the former lead singer of Marillion under the working title Smith and Fish. If that's not to your taste, then of course there's the Late Break Show. Lots of excellent videos on there about cars.
You turd.
We're recording a little ahead of time here, so I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask what's coming up. But there's good stuff.
I'll go out on a limb here and say almost certainly there's going to be an incredible video that's recently gone live.
Yes, sell high.
So that's what's going on, Rich. Yeah.
Cool. Second thing I've got to tell you is something we probably don't mention enough, although it is in the song at the end. We have merchandise. We have T-shirts, we have mugs, stickers, caps, all sorts of stuff. We
really nicely embroidered caps.
Yeah, really nicely embroidered caps with 2.2 design was my personal favourite. But we have all sorts of other things there. So go to smithandsniff.com, check out our merchandise. You can also see details of upcoming live shows following the live show tab there. And the third thing I wanted to tell you is you're a fan of the film Sexy Beast, aren't you?
Yeah, I haven't seen it for a long time, but yeah.
And you may also be a fan of that Jamiroquai video where all the furniture's moving around.
Yes.
And do you remember that Guinness advert with the surfers that was all shot in black and white? Won loads of awards. Very atmospheric, very classy, very subtle.
Tick follows tock, follows tick, follows tock.
That's the one.
Yeah.
All of those 3 things were directed by the same man.
Jonathan Glazer?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've guessed something that you were about to say. That's the first time this has ever happened, I think.
I found that quite remarkable. I had no idea until just recently that, so the guy who directed Sexy Beast also did the Jamiroquai, oh no, the coffee table's coming for me video and that brilliant Guinness ad. That's quite a CV.
Do you know what? I used to work with his dad, Stan Glazer.
Really?
I did. When I first started out working on Car Magazine, I I used to share the office with Stan, and me and Stan used to go and have lunch together now and again. He was the friendliest, nicest bloke out there when I was like a wet behind the ears little junior writer, I guess. And he would always take me under his wing and want to chat about cars and the world of this and the world of that. He was a really interesting guy. Lovely guy. So, but he did mention to me, because obviously my name's Jonathan, he said, my son's got the same name as you. And he said, I remember him saying, he said, do you remember that Guinness commercial? And I said, yeah. He said, he was involved in that. And I was like, what, really? Like the one that won all the awards? Yeah. And he went, yeah, he did that. So he was a top boy. He was a really,
good.
really, he was an SSG. I'm going to say that. He was definitely an SSG.
Good, that's good to hear. All right, well, that's quite enough of this for now, but we'll do it all again next week, and we're back on Friday with an Ottersot answering your questions. Until then, goodbye.
Bye, everybody. On that side of things, I haven't said that for ages.
So you've enjoyed this podcast, but you've had a thought. Is there a way here today that you could show support? Well, you could join our Patreon, what wonders that it brings. Early shows and extra notes on that side of things. You could buy our merchandise, we've mugs and hats but still no ties. One day we will make those pies, but in the meantime, guys, hey guys, like and subscribe, and maybe leave a nice review. Like and subscribe, we know you know just what to do. Like and subscribe, we don't want to take the piss. Like and subscribe, but we were told to ask for this. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Mickey Finn, Groove Rider, Pilgrim, Slipmat, Dougal, DJSS, I believe.